So let's speak about GraphQL in Vue application. And before I start, I want to introduce myself one more time, because Ilya already did this and probably told a bit more than I wanted to say about myself. My name is Natalia, and I'm Vue.js core team member. In Vue.js team, I'm mostly responsible for writing core documentation, contributing to Vue CLI, and for ecosystem, I really love to contribute to Vue Apollo. That's why I'm speaking about GraphQL. I'm also a Google developer expert in web technologies, and I work as a senior front-end engineer at GitLab, where I'm responsible for collapsing diffs. Joke. In fact, I'm responsible for the application that works with GraphQL GitLab API. So, what is GraphQL? In fact, one of the most popular answers I've heard is, this cool thing I should learn when I have some free time. Please raise your hand if you were in this boat at least once. I was there as well. No lies. I even tried to check this and made a poll on Twitter. So as you can see, almost half of the people are interested in it, but never tried. But if we get serious, what is GraphQL? In a nutshell, it's just a syntax that describes how to ask for data. And I didn't put a word server or backend here intentionally, because with GraphQL, you're not bind to the server. You can fetch data even from your own local state. But right now, let's imagine it's a syntax that describes how to fetch data from backend. Cool, nice, but why should we care about it? Don't we already have a syntax for fetching data from the backend? It's REST API, it works, right? Why do we need to learn GraphQL? What is the main benefit of it? In fact, GraphQL has it, and it's getting exactly what you need. Here you can see the very simple GraphQL query, fetching an array of authors. We are fetching only a name. Now imagine we want also to add an age to the author. What do we do if we have REST API? We're contacting backend, right? We're asking to add age to the REST API response, or we want to define a certain endpoint that will give us a data with an age if we need them separately somewhere. What do we do in GraphQL? We simply add one more field to the query, and we're fetching data from the server with the same endpoint. Because in fact, GraphQL has only one endpoint. What do we need to form a response? It's just to form a request. Let's take a look at more real-life example. As I'm working for GitLab, it will be about repositories. Imagine we want to fetch all the repositories for a certain user. And we want to know what languages were used in the repository and how many forks does it have. So first is fetching just a list of repositories for the user from the backend. And these three dots there means we have a really huge response. Every object here has more than 150 lines. And there are many of them. Maybe not that many in my case. I'm not that proud contributor. But it's still around 50 repositories. Next step is funny, because in these 150 lines, we don't have languages used in the repository. And we don't have forks. We have only links to forks and languages. So next step is we are iterating through the array of repositories with a different endpoint. We are fetching languages here. And it's 50 requests to the server. And it's not enough again, because we need a different endpoint to have forks. You can imagine an amount of queries here. So what do we do? What are the main issues? Sorry, the microphone is falling off me. First is underfetching. With the first request, we had a lot of data, but we didn't have the thing we need. Second is overfetching. Because we have a huge amount of data we don't need. We just needed forks and languages. That's it. With GraphQL, we are providing a user login and fetching the list of repositories with only name, forks, and languages. That's why it's great when you have a slow connection, like we do have. Okay. Every GraphQL server, sorry again. So every GraphQL server has a set of types. This set of types defines what data we can fetch from the server. This set of types is called schema. It's GraphQL schema. What is a GraphQL type? It's very simple. It's similar to any types you probably used to see at least in Angular. And here is a basic type. Oh, it's not that visible. So it's a basic type user that have two fields, name and an age. Name is a string, age is an integer. And you can see an exclamation mark after the string. That means that name is mandatory. You cannot create a user without providing a name. A bit more complex example is where we have a title of string, an author that has a type of user we just defined above. As you can see, types could be really deeply nested. But in the end, all GraphQL types resolve to 5 basic types that are called scalar in GraphQL. It's integer, float, string, boolean, and ID, which is just a unique identifier. Okay, I think we got about GraphQL types. Now let's look at special types. And first one is query. Query is similar to REST API GET request. In fact, all GraphQL requests are POST ones, but query is designed to fetch data from the backend. And let's play with queries. Because with GraphQL, theory is not that cool. Let's have some practice. This is so-called Prisma Playground. I will try to enlarge it a bit more. In fact, it's just a graphical interface for the GraphQL server. What is cool about Prisma, as well as GraphQL, a different interface, is it's self-documented. Because you can go to docs, and you can see here are all the types defined on the server. Queries, mutations, subscriptions. Let's take a look at query. Can you see it? Because it's maybe not that readable. So this is a query returning an array of heroes. And hero is a type we defined on the server. It has 5 fields: ID, name, image, GitHub, and Twitter. Let's try to write the first query to see how it works. So we are creating a query. It's named, as you remember, all heroes. And for now, we just want to fetch an ID. We are running it, and you see we have an array of some weird heroes with different IDs. Cool. Let's add an image, maybe. It's not that visible, but you can see it's the same endpoint here. And this endpoint returns a different set of data. Next special type is mutation. As query is designed to fetch data, mutation is designed to change data. You can create a new entity, you can update it, patch it, whatever. Back to the playground. Let's check what mutations do we have here. As you can see, we have add hero and delete hero mutations. And it's obvious. Let's take a look at add hero. This is a bit more complex than just a query because we have a parameter to pass and a return type. So what do we need to pass? It should be hero of hero input type. And it's very similar to hero. It lacks only an ID because server will give an ID as soon as we add a hero. and it can return a new hero. Okay, let's give it a try. We have a mutation. We want to add a hero. And we want to edit a name. Let's name it test, just for test. And let it return an ID. Okay. So we have an ID. Remember it. And we can go to our query, fetch all heroes again. And you will see that at the bottom we have our new hero added. Because Prisma is not just a playground. Its interface working exactly with your server. The last special type is fun. It's called subscription. Subscription works similarly to WebSockets. You can subscribe to the changes on the GraphQL server, and your frontend will be notified as soon as the change happens. Let's try to add a little subscription here. Let's name it Hero Sub. And we want to get an ID as well. Okay, let's start listening. Right now, I'm subscribed to any changes that will be done to heroes array on the GraphQL server. Let's add one more. It will be test 2 maybe. ID. And you can see that our subscription returned the ID of new hero. This is really useful if you're going to build some interactive applications like Messenger, because all users will be notified on any change. Nice, it was more about GraphQL servers, so what about front-end, what about Vue? First, let's speak about Apollo client really shortly. GraphQL can be used without any clients, in fact. You can implement it to your front-end directly. But it's like inventing a wheel, like using vanilla JavaScript instead of using frameworks. So Apollo client is one of 2 most popular clients. Second is Relay by Facebook. Apollo client is open source, it's created by the Apollo organizations. It's very simple to get started. As you can see in the live coding part, you can jump on Apollo client and start working with it in like 10 minutes. It provides dev tools, which I think is a huge benefit because, as Ilya already said, debugging is hard. Everything that makes debugging easier is valuable. And it's universally compatible. It has integrations to Vue, like Vue Apollo I'm working on, to React, obviously, to Angular, etc. And you can use it even in native applications. So, Vue integration. It's named Vue Apollo. It's a very simple plugin. And to install it, you need to take some simple steps, like install Vue Apollo, GraphQL, and Apollo Boost from Apollo client, create Apollo client with providing a URL to our GraphQL server, and then we are creating provider and injecting it to our Vue application. Good thing is, if your project is created with Vue CLI, you can just type Vue add Apollo, and this plugin will be added very fast, asking you a few questions if you want to, like example component. So let's work on Vue application with Apollo. Demo time. Please tell me if the font is visible for everyone. Okay, awesome. So we have a front-end application. It's running right here. It's going to display some heroes of this conference, but so far, like, no heroes found. Let's try to add them to the application. And of course, we are going to use the query we already have. It's actually very safe when creating GraphQL queries to use any kind of playground, GraphQL or Prisma, because you can simply copy-paste query from here. We want to have GitHub and the name. Let's just copy-paste it for now. And to edit in our application, we need GQL, as you can see here. Okay. Weird. My enter button is like not displaying. Okay, let's try to. For some reason I can't type. Let me just try to disconnect the presenter and see if it happens. Nope. Okay, at least something. So we are going to create a constant. We will name it all heroes query. And we are going to use GQL parser. It's just a template parser that will parse your string to GraphQL query. It will be GQL. This is really weird. Let me try to disconnect and connect it back like Ilya did. Plug it in, plug it out. Okay. Doesn't seem to work. I will restart Visual Studio Code and hope for best. It works? Nope. Nope, it doesn't. Don't save anything. Let's start it back. Oh, nice. We're safe. Let's start everything back. I'm starting an Apollo server here to have the API and the application. Back to our non-existent heroes. Let's close everything and start with our query again. So we are using GQL to parse a string, and we will just insert the query right here. It's complaining because I have an Apollo plugin, and it says me like it doesn't support anonymous operations. In fact, it does, and you will see it right now. So we have a query, and now we need to inject this query to our application. View Apollo gives you a chance to work with Apollo property. It's actually what View Apollo does. It adds this property to your View components. And we are going to have all heroes here with our query we just created. Back to the front end. And yeah, here we go. Some heroes. Totally non-responsive, thanks to the resolution, but at least something. Nice. As you can see, creating the first query is really fast. All you need, just a string, add it to Apollo property, it works. Now, as you can see in our application, we have these two test heroes we've created with our mutation. We need to wait to delete them. And that's why we have mutations. Let's go back to our app and create a mutation. Oh, one more thing about anonymous queries and Apollo DevTools. Nope, not Vue. I'm Vue core member, but not that much. Thanks. As you can see, everything we've just fetched is presented here in the Apollo cache. You can inspect it and see your data at any moment. Even better, you can see this query we've just created. You can go to GraphQL interface, which is a bit simpler than Prisma Playground, but you can still run this query right here in the browser console. See, it's running. And let's give it a name to stop my plugin from complaining. It will be all heroes, just in Pascal case. Now let's create a delete hero mutation. So it's a mutation, obviously, and it's delete hero. Oh, let's name it properly. So we need to pass a parameter. It's a name. And of course, we can do it this way, which is just a... Sorry. Let me just fix it normally. Okay, let's hope it's better now. Of course, we can hard code the name and it will work. But what if we need to pass this name as a variable? GraphQL allows us to do this with providing variable to the mutation. So we are going to have a name. It's a string. And we will pass it right here. In my case, delete hero doesn't return anything because it shouldn't. Let's try to delete a hero with this mutation. To call the mutation from view app, we can just provide it into the Apollo object. We need to actually write it with a method, which is this $Apollo, which is Apollo instance, mutate. And here we need to provide a mutation name. And we need to add variables because we're going to pass a name to the mutation. We are passing just a name because it's a parameter here. Awesome. Let's give it a first try. Let's go to our test, try to delete it, refresh, scroll. Nope. Live coding fails. Why it's not even calling? Yep, exactly. Console log driven debugging. No, it's running. Yep, right now it's deleted. See, console log saves lives. You just add a console log and everything works immediately. Okay, this is cool, but this is not really interactive, even with a console log. I mean, we deleted a hero and we need to refresh a page to fetch new data, which sounds kinda lame. Let's add one more option here, and it's called update. Update is a hook that allows you to interact with Apollo cache and to change it on the mutation with optimistic response. So imagine we have our store, and store is actually an Apollo cache I've shown you in browser console. And we are going to change it. First step is we are reading data we already have there. So let's save it to the constant data, which is just store read query. We need to provide a query name here. We are reading our all hero. Nice. Now we need to find the hero to delete. So it will be our data all heroes array. We will find an index of the hero where hero name is equal to our passed parameter. And now we're simply going to delete it. I have a typo and nobody noticed. Now we need to make a splice. And at the end, we need to write it back to the cache, because otherwise it won't be rendered. So we're doing store, write query. Again, it's all heroes query, and we provide our data. I will refresh it this time and delete the console log, which will probably break the whole application. But let's give it a try. Oh, told you. Yeah, all heroes. Thank you. It was all because of the console log, trust me. Yay, it deletes. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't look good in this resolution. Let's try to make it responsive, maybe. Yep, let's make it responsive, and I try to make it a bit nicer, even without this one. Nope, nope. Don't do this, don't close everything. Okay. I will just try to make the console a bit smaller. As you can see, there are speakers, all the heroes of this conference, except me, because I don't feel myself a hero, especially right now with failing live coding. And also, I'm too humble to name myself a hero and add it to the array. And let's try to add a test hero to see how it works. So back to our mutations. Let's create add hero mutation, which is again parsed by GQL. We will provide a hero here. And you remember the type of hero input without an ID. And right now I want to return everything, which is ID, Twitter. Oh, I forgot to add an actual name of the mutation. And you can see something weird, right? I'm repeating myself. And what do we have here? Name. We already had this set of fields. I need to pass a hero as well. And you know, the principle is don't repeat yourself. Do we have any kind of abstraction to save a subset of GraphQL fields somewhere? In fact, yes, it's called fragment. Let's create one. With fragments, you can simply reuse part of the GraphQL type where you need it. It has a fragment name, and we name it hero fragment. And we need to show what type we're using to create a fragment on. It's hero. GQL, yep. And a selection of subfields. I think so. Yep. Okay, ID, image, Twitter. I will just copy paste the rest. We can simply reuse it here, spreading hero fragment. And we need to define it here as well, as our constant. Now we can do the same for the mutation as well. Okay, now we are ready to actually add a hero. We already have a method clearing the form, so we will also call this Apollo mutate. We define a mutation. we need variables because we need to add a hero. And we are passing it, actually creating it here with the fields from the form. And let's start with update function from the beginning. I will just simply copy paste the one from deleting and change it. Right now we need not only a store, but the data we're passing with the mutation, because we need actually to add them to our cache. So we have a data from add hero mutation. Again, we are reading the query, but instead of deleting stuff, we will just simply push a new hero to the array and write query back. Okay, let's add some hero. Just 1, 2, 3, submit, and you can see we have it. But we also lack one hero here, and it's our keynoter, Ilya. It's my revenge for mentioning I will answer questions on view 3. I won't, don't even try. Joke. I can, but. And also for showing my merge request right from off stage. It was actually scary. Imagine your merge request is shown on the big screen to all the people and can see your shitty code. Happens. Okay, let's try to add Ilya. And I have his image here, which is damn creepy. So he's Xanth. And I won't add his GitHub intentionally because we work for GitLab. Sorry. And he's here. Awesome. That's actually everything I wanted to show you. Here is a project repository. If you want to play, it has a start branch without all the changes I've added on the demo. And of course, it has a final code, so you can see how it works in the application. And OK, I will leave it for 5 minutes. Thank you.
Дякуємо, Наталія. І тепер ваші запитання.
Please. Hi, that's for school. I have a question. In which cases the REST API is better for using than GraphQL?
In fact, if you have a really complex data and a really complex queries to database, sometimes it's a pain to implement GraphQL. That's why I always say what is good for frontend. Sometimes it's a real pain for backend. If you ask backend engineers, they're not that happy about GraphQL. So if you have a really complex database queries, probably the REST API would be better.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the speech. I have a quick question. How do we restrict access within the same entity from multiple endpoints?
You mean how we do restrict access to GraphQL endpoint?
I mean, how do we restrict access to the same model of the GraphQL if we have like different users with different permissions and each user access the same model? And so we want to allow for example, for the admin, all the columns.
Like we usually do, we create different roles, right? Like user, admin, anonymous. And we provide different access to different queries. Like the great example for looking how it's implemented is Hasura. It's Hasura. And you can check how they implement this model on their backend, because I think they have a great dividing for different models.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you for your great speech. My question is about error handling. For example, when we're trying to delete some hero, with the REST API, we can handle response and define that from server side something goes wrong, and how we can define it with the mutation.
Thank you. It's actually a great question. I should have mentioned it in my talk. GraphQL has a great error handling. It provides not only data, as you can see, I've used it in the mutation, but also an error object, where your backend can specify all the messages for different cases because there are like 5 types of GraphQL errors. And this message can be returned to the front end with the error object. And you can use this message directly, showing it to user.
Thank you.
No problem. Okay, I think that's it. And okay, no, that's it.
Hello, thank you for your speech. So I have a question about this Apollo cache. So as we see, like this is used for like a source of truth, like with a store. Are there any pitfalls of using this? Because like for docs we have immutable for controlling this. And what is with this cache? Are there any pitfalls or hidden scenarios of using?
Of course, there are pitfalls. If you plan your mutations not in the best way, sometimes you need to update this cache on every mutation to have your UI rendered correctly. Like we just had this case at GitLab, that's why I'm answering so surely. But on the other hand, having cache is great because you can manage your local state application with an Apollo cache. Previously, we needed a library for it. It was called Apollo link state. Right now, it's in the core of Apollo. And I can say in the application I'm working on, we got rid of Vuex for state management. We're managing our local state with Apollo cache.
Thank you.
Okay, this question is about Apollo cache. What about multi-user environment where not only me modifying something on the server side? As I can see, you every time using the cache and response for the one.
Yes, but this
entity.
response is just an optimistic response. That means that your UI will be changed immediately. After this, the mutation will be performed and it will change it correctly. That's why we actually have data from the server, not only locally stored. And also, if you want to really interactive interaction with the server, like real time, you have subscriptions. You can subscribe to changes and change the front end respectively.